Good morning. Very nice to see you all. Thank you for being here in our third day of the staff training. My name is Yannis Miralis. I'm an associate professor of music ed at European University Cyprus, which is one of the partners in this very interesting project, Music Map. You can see, I would like to mention that all of the videos of the previous presentations, as well as of the upcoming presentations, they are already uploaded in the website of AEC and the Music Map project. You can see the videos and the presentations for those who missed some of them, and they will be all of them uploaded by the end of the week as they are completed day by day. So you can see them all there, free for everybody to view and think about. So today we're very happy to have with us Dr. Andri Hadjiandreou, who will talk to us about cultural intelligence for music entrepreneurship. A few words about Andri. She's the founder of the Curious Squad platform for cultural intelligence, and she's the leader of the CQ movement in Cyprus. She has received training by Cultural Intelligence Center in 2018, and she's the first Cypriot to act as cultural intelligence and unconscious bias certified facilitator. She's the founding member and president of Arts Embrace Cultural Organization, a non-profit organization in Cyprus, which is involved and very active in organizing diverse cultural activities and various projects on wider social issues and concerns, and not only focusing on music. Arts Embrace has been the leading organization for implementing the CQ movement in Cyprus. So we are very thankful for Andri for her participation. And Andri, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, everyone. Yanni, thank you for the invitation. It's, of course, a pleasure to have this conversation with everyone. As Yanni said, I am one of the founding members of Arts Embrace Cultural Organization. It's an NGO that was registered back in 2014. So we have been active for about 6 or 7 years now. This is it all started actually as a cultural organization, but although the 3 founding members are all professional musicians, we actually had the goal was to try to bring together different areas of culture and not focus only on music, although music was a driving force for every single project. You know, the driving force behind everything we were doing, at least for the beginning, for the first few years, actually. So the big idea was to promote that culture is essential in cultivating active and effective citizens, not only within Cyprus, but of course outside the borders of Cyprus, and to promote the idea that Cyprus can turn into a cultural center due to the geographical position of the country, of the island. We feel that there is such a variety in cultures and diversity that has to, you know, be brought out even more, especially now. So we started by putting together different ideas for different projects, trying to cover different areas of music. For example, educational projects, concert series, different programs for areas that are decentralized, so we reach children and communities that are you know, probably not having opportunities to go to theaters or even go to classical concerts often, or even educational concerts often. So that was the main goal, one of the main goals of starting this NGO. And as I said, the founding members are only 3, and that's how we remain, 3. It's a 3 women show, meaning that all the administrative work, artistic work is being done by 3 people. Obviously, we're not, we don't have executive positions in the sense that we are an organization that has established working positions that we get paid for, as we're also artists, so we try to participate in these artistic projects as artists. So what we try to do is to open up different types of platforms and invite people to work with us every time and build with us the projects. So even when we invite young musicians or students, we actually ask them for their input while putting together a project. So even though we do have the main idea, of course, well discussed and prepared, we also have their input for the final product, let's say. So we had to find a way to make these ideas feasible, of course, and we had to find funding sources as a very, very small NGO in a very, very small country. So we had to build our portfolio. So although we were organizing programs and concerts before 2014, actually we started back in 2006 when we all came back to Cyprus after, you know, finishing our studies, etc., etc. We were doing that as individuals. So it was even more difficult to find funding sources, well, at least from the government, yes? So we decided to register the organization as an NGO, so we would be eligible to apply for specific funding programs from the Ministry of Education and Culture here in Cyprus, from the Cultural Services. So we have 2 options. The first one is to request funding from a program that is called Culture, and it's a program that has been redeveloping and reinventing itself, trying to follow the European, I guess, guidelines, like the Creative Europe guidelines for culture. So lately they have been trying to improve the program in a way so that the organizations that apply under culture in Cyprus, they can be develop such skills as to prepare themselves later on to apply for European programs as well. So we have been getting funding from culture since 2014. It's a competitive program. Again, there are credentials, you know, I'm very well sure that you know how this works. It's a competitive program. You never know how much money you will get. You need, of course, additional funding from other sources. So we always look for other sources, again, within Cyprus, it's either state funding or private funding. So usually we go through the Cyprus Youth Board organization, and again, we apply there. It's a competitive program. We apply there. We never know how much money we will be granted, and we try to mix and match funding from the Cyprus Youth Organization and the Cultural Services, so that we have enough budget for each of our seasons, let's say. Now, since the Cyprus Youth Organization has an age limit, people can apply up to their 35th year. So we have created an extra department of the Arts and Press Organization. It's the Youth Department, which is led by one of the 3 founding members, which is under the age of 35. So far we are lucky because one of our founding members is a 30-year-old young woman, So under her name, we have created this extra branch, and we keep applying, so we can apply for the next 5 years to the Cyprus Youth Organization for additional funding. We also support a lot the idea of the cultural decentralization program, which again, as I mentioned earlier, it moves away from the centralized cities and away from the theater idea of performance. So we go to any communities and villages up in the mountains, by the sea, anywhere that we feel that there are children or families that cannot have access to cultural events. So we built smaller programs with fewer people, fewer musicians that can be mobile, they can be moved easily. And we put together programs that combine music, theater, and dance most of the times. So we have a team of, let's say, a maximum of 8 or 10 people. We just jump into our cars and we drive around the island, and we give this kind of performances, which is always a great pleasure to get the feedback of what is needed out there. So that's something we've been doing again on a steady basis. We are very happy to say that the press and media are responding to our request to support our program. So they provide us with free promotional advertising, of course, and TV and radio spots. So so far we do have the support of the Cyprus Broadcasting Corporation, as well as other private or smaller TV and radio stations. We have established collaborations around the island with a number of municipalities, with other local cultural players, with theater organizations, with other NGOs. So we have been expanding our network. And of course, that was the main idea, to have this outreach, this character of I don't know, Yanni, if you have the right word, exostrefia. Maybe somebody can help me with the translation.
Looking and working and going outward in extroverted approach.
Exactly, yes, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you very much.
Out of the cities and the centers, yes.
Exactly, exactly. And I think we have established this because lately we have been getting requests for collaborations, which means that the organization is at the moment very well established and very well recognized within the island. Of course, I have to say that collaborations expand outside Cyprus as well, because we always invite artists from abroad based on the budget we have. We do have collaborations with many countries so far, with Spain, Italy, Germany, Austria, Greece, from the United States. So depending on the collaborations we have every time, we have new artists coming in. These are just some pictures of some recent concerts and educational programs we have been giving around the island. We always try to combine what is called a mainstream repertory with, of course, contemporary composers and contemporary creativity. So in each program, we try to have both, a little bit of both. So we give the chance to people to come in for what they expect. Let's say a program might have a, let's say, Greek or a Haydn symphony, for example, as the last one had a Haydn symphony on Sunday. But we also had a 10-minute work by a Cypriot composer that was actually a political satire of what is going on nowadays in Cyprus and abroad, with everything that we have been observing with COVID and all the new difficulties that humanity is facing. So people always come to our concerts and they don't always know what they will expect by the end of it. We always have something that they don't know exactly what it's going to be. So I think that's one of the main characteristics of our concerts and productions. So what we have done the past few years, we have established a youth festival for classical music. It's called Classic Beat Youth Festival. That has been it started as an annual event since 2014, but we have decided the last 2 years that it's going to be a biannual event due to the difficulties to find a budget and of course to combine the festival with all the other activities we do throughout the year. So I thought it's better to give it time and have it every 2 years. And people are responding from all the cities around Cyprus. We include programs from preschool ages until to university students. So we expand from very young ages until young professionals. And we give opportunities to perform with us or create their own programs, etc., etc. We have created Orchestra Ostinata, which is a very flexible ensemble, an orchestra ensemble, which has some steady collaborators, for example, artists from all over Cyprus that are not members of the Cyprus Symphony Orchestra. So we give them opportunity to perform according to the needs of the program. So it's not a fixed ensemble, it's an ensemble that is created every time according to the needs of each concert. And at the same time, if we need extra musicians, then we go and collaborate with musicians from the Cyprus Symphony Orchestra. So they come with us and we put together a good size orchestra so we can respond to the needs of each concert. We have the Biggie Bank project. It's a project that is, the idea is to focus on percussion, on promoting percussion instruments and marimba performance, and promote the idea of percussion as a performance instrument and not only as an orchestra, orchestra musician. So through Biggie Bank, we have educational projects based on rhythm, on junk percussion, on different ideas behind the percussion performance and how it has been evolving throughout the last years. And of course, we have big performance projects that we invite percussionists from abroad, from well-known orchestras such as the Santa Cecilia Orchestra. They come and they work with us, and we keep developing the percussion performance throughout the year. We have established Trio Ostinato, which is again an ensemble that works with living composers. It's an ensemble for piano, violin, and percussion. So it's a very unusual setup of musicians. And because it's unusual, it means that we work with composers that write music especially for us. So we commission works, again, every time for different purposes. So we have been creating a portfolio of works. So far we have 7 or 8 composers, if I'm not mistaken, that have worked with us from the United States, UK, Greece, Cyprus, and we're trying to expand, of course. We have a different series of chamber music concerts. We already talked about the cultural decentralization concerts and the educational programs we provide, the collaborations with local and international artists, professionals, as well as educators. We provide workshops, masterclasses, seminars, and conferences throughout the year. And of course, this brings us to the Cultural Intelligence Conference that we organized for the first time last year. This is a collaboration that started in 2018 between Arts Embrace and the Cultural Intelligence Center in Chicago, USA. I actually, as the president of the organization, I went to Chicago in May 2018, and I received training by the Cultural Intelligence Center, because we felt that we needed, in order to get our message across the island, that music is not, it doesn't exist on its own as an art, but it has to involve the rest of the cultural sectors, let's say, and that it seems that all the European programs now, they don't have a division between the cultural sectors. The culture is now evolving and molding into something completely different than what it used to be. We wanted to pass on this idea that we need to develop our cultural intelligence in our broader lives, and see what the meaning of culture is, not in terms of the arts, but in our everyday life as well. So we did search about the Cultural Intelligence Program, what is called CQ, and we found the center in Chicago, in USA. They have been running the program and running researches for almost 2 decades, and they have been applying the program for in over 100 countries. We saw the results, the positive results of the program. So we decided to go to receive training, to check this out, and to see whether we would like to start a collaboration with them. And so it happened in 2019. In April of 2018, we organized the first Cultural Intelligence Conference in Cyprus. We had Dr. David Livermore, where you can see at the central picture, the president of the center, to come in Cyprus and present a lecture on why Cyprus needs cultural intelligence. We had professionals coming from abroad, from different universities, from Cyprus and Greece, from different areas. We had professionals from law departments, from architectural departments, from other cultural organizations. We had politicians coming in, try to explain how this idea of cultural intelligence is not actually developed as much as it should be, not only in Cyprus, but in the area, in the surrounding area as well. So we had a 2-day conference with lectures and with workshops, and we saw that people were actually eager to participate, and that's when we decided to start this official collaboration with Cultural Intelligence Center, USA. So we thought that it would be a good idea, since the Cultural Intelligence Center has been working on this idea for 20 years and providing all this research. And of course, they have their own website with all the assessments they provide. For example, they have similar assessments, similar tests to EQ and IQ. The only difference is that CQ is placed in between IQ and EQ, and it combines the two. So they have created their own assessments, which you can find on their webpage. So we thought there's nothing more to say there, of course, because they are the organization providing all the research. But although they had translated all these assessments in different languages, this was not done in Greek. So we thought, okay, we need to provide a digital platform that is based in Cyprus, so that we start initiating our own research in Cyprus, hopefully between Cyprus and Greece. So this is the goal at the moment. And we were able to rebrand the idea of CQ, and instead of calling it, of course, cultural intelligence, we rebranded it and we called it Curious Cat. So we kept the initiatives CQ, and we now have it as Curious Cat digital platform. The platform was completed in September. And our motto is that curiosity skilled the cat. As we all know that curiosity killed the cat. Well, obviously, we don't believe that curiosity kills anyone. On the contrary, we believe that curiosity skills people. And since the whole idea of CQ is based on 4 basic skills that people need to develop, and the first one is, of course, curiosity, the drive behind our curiosity to learn about different cultures, different cultural environments, and to be able to adapt and be flexible within different cultural working environments, community environments, artistic environments. That's we thought that this is a good motto to have, and we have created our own logo, Curious Cat. You can see it on the left, and of course that's my face. And we don't have a video. You can at least see how I look like after I have been to the hair salon. So anyway, so this is CQ on the left, and we have our own, let's say, cat that participates in our promotional videos or webinars. And this is the idea behind it. Now, I went back a slide just to show you that we have created the Curious Cat website, www.curiouscat.eu, and the goal is to start now reaching out for European programs and European collaborations, and enhance this collaboration with the states as the as the expertise behind it. Now we have a European platform that can start applying to European programs such as Creative Europe, let's say. We have built a portfolio of artistic projects, and now we're going into this new direction of the Curious Cat digital platforms. You can check it out if you want as we speak, because the platform, I don't know, Yanni, if I can share again a screen and maybe scroll through the website, or if you prefer to give a few minutes to the participants to look through it.
Try to share the website and guide us through if you want, and we see how it works. With that,
yes, that's also one option. So shall I do it, you mean? Because the line was a bit...
Please.
Okay, so let me see. Please tell me whether you can see what I see. Can you see the website now?
No, we can't.
Okay, give me a second.
You have to change the sharing screen. New share.
All right.
Change the share screen.
All right, this should be it. Hold on. Maybe you can see it now?
No. Get out of the share screen and then open the website and then put share screen.
Okay,
again.
so I will stop sharing now.
Yes.
All right, and I will share screen again. And here it is. And you can see it probably now.
It's uploading, double click. There we see it now, yes.
Yes?
Now we see the website, yes.
Great. So this is the new website, a Cyprus-based website. If you scroll down, we will be posting domestic CQ news, like good practices, what has been happening out there in all these countries that have been applying CQ, in all these companies, in all these organizations, schools, universities, airlines, even security departments, governmental departments that have been using CQ to improve the productivity of the employers and, of course, the environment within the working place. This is domestic and global CQ. I'm sorry, I was referring to global CQ. If you scroll down, we have created the Green Room. It's a digital channel where we are uploading audio webinars in Greek. You can see that we already have 4 ones explaining what CQ is about, what are the cultural skills we need to develop, what are the cultural clusters, what culture means, why we need it, etc., etc. We are also uploading videos, again, in the sense of webinars, short webinars. If you want, we can click and see whether your internet can support the video that is already uploaded. It is in Greek, but it has English subtitles, so you can get the idea behind what this program is about.
You probably all have seen the video. It was nice actually to see you, Andri, since the camera is not working. So,
yes.
So the video had an extra value to the presentation. It was very nice to see
yes.
you. So
Great.
please continue, and then we can, there are some...
so obviously, okay, yeah. Can you guys hear me? Yes, okay. So, okay, good. So if you want, you now have our website and you can go through it to see what we provide. There are direct links to the Cultural Intelligence Center USA, so you can actually see what they have been doing for 20 years as well. And you can, of course, contact us at any time if you find this program interesting. So. This is actually pretty much the basic things of what I wanted to mention on how we started this NGO and how it's moving towards a different direction now, because it seems that the NGO will keep existing, of course, but at the same time, with this rebranding of CQ, we are actually moving through a different type of maybe company. Maybe we might have to register a different company in the near future, so that we keep both organization, an NGO, and a profitable company, so that they keep working together and I don't know how to, again, Yanni, I need some help. Να τροφοδοτούν ο ένας τον άλλο, to keep
feedback and support for each other to keep going forward.
As communicating yes. channels, but yes. so that they provide culture from a completely different perspective, with a completely different approach, but having the same goal always. So this is the main idea, to try to approach as many people as possible, to provide the idea that culture is essential, that you can actually make a living out of it, and you know, to have different directions of doing this. So this is it. Thank you all. You can follow us, of course, on Facebook, through different channels. You can contact us directly, and of course, I can provide you with more information if you would like to hear more about us.
Thank you very much, Andri. Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. As you can see in the last slide, down at the bottom left is the 3 founding members of the Arts Embrace. Andri is on the left, and the other 2 founding members. Thank you very much. I took the liberty and I wrote, Andri, at the chat your personal email, as well as the 2 emails that
you provided. Of course, that's fine.
For people, if they want to contact you directly in any of those 3 possible addresses. And we're now ready for the discussion, a question and answer section. And I think there is a first question from Maria from Wrocław in Poland. Maria, you want to ask the question or?
Yeah, the question was simple. Was the Ostinato Trio the three brave women who formed the NGO, or this is other artists?
Yes, actually, yes. And the reason is is because we were talking about collaborations, and we realized that we never actually collaborated officially, just the three of us on stage, because we have been always working to bring other artists together. And we didn't realize that, okay, it's about time to actually put together an ensemble that is so unusual and start working as a trio, promoting new music. So yes, I'm the pianist, Vicky is the violinist, and Nadasa is the percussionist. Nadasa studied at the Royal Manchester Conservatory, Vicky at Pancho Vladigerov Academy of Sofia, and I studied in the States at in Rutgers University, and then in UK at the University of London.
Great, thank you. And I should say that for Cyprus, this organization it's very active, and you have seen in the presentation how diversified it is as far as addressing cultural issues and musical issues from various angles. And it's one of the few organizations actually that it's founded and run completely by 3 professional women. So it sets as an example to be followed by others. The floor is open for questions, for comments, for feedback. Please feel free to do so. Okay, maybe I can ask a question. Okay, Lerzan, you commented that there is a piece by Siegfried Fink. The name is Trio Ostinato for percussion and clarinet. I don't know if you are aware of it, Andri. But, you can find that out. It's a comment by Lerzan.
We should
check it out. Yes.
Sure.
I have a question. If you can, I think it would be very interesting for colleagues and participating today to hear what are the main points that were addressed by, I forgot the name of the president of the organization in Chicago, the Cultural Intelligence, Dave, I think.
David Livermore. David Livermore.
Okay. Yes, he came and gave you mentioned that he came and gave a speech in Cyprus 2 years ago.
A speech.
A presentation focusing on why Cyprus needs cultural intelligence. It would be interesting, I think, if you can tell us, if you remember, to tell us a little bit more about it, since it's kind of culturally specific. Connecting cultural intelligence to a specific place in time. I think that would be interesting to hear about that.
Well, that's a good actually point, Yanni, because David visited Cyprus for the first time just the day before the conference. So apparently he came into a country that has been divided for so long, and he knew about it only just by doing research. So even just by entering the island and driving through, from Larnaca to Nicosia, for example, and watching these different angles of what is it to be living in a divided country. That was actually the first thing that was noticeable to him, that okay, how do you communicate culturally if there are borders throughout the island and people have to cross them over? How do you cross them over culturally as well? Because the CQ program, that's what's all about crossing borders and building bridges across cultures and across communities. So he was really interested in finding out how people are coping culturally, professionally, personally, you know, with this situation. So actually, he didn't change his presentation at all. He presented why CQ is actually necessary at the moment. That you know, we live in a globalized world. We have to change works very often. We have to change working environments quite often, and we have to be flexible and productive. So, what are those skills that we need to develop? And he was fascinated by the idea that there is absolutely no research being done in Cyprus about this kind of approach in Cyprus or Greece or the surrounding countries. That this program has been applied to so many countries, but not in areas like in countries like Cyprus and Middle East, for example. And of course, I'm not talking about political issues in any way, but obviously the first thing that you feel once you enter a country, it's the way people are approaching everyday life, you know. So anyway, that was the main purpose of him coming to Cyprus, to see how we can start a research and how we can build together a nationwide strategy to promote the idea of cultural intelligence and how it can be profitable for organizations, for universities, educational programs, for schools, for communities, for refugees, for any sort of communities. So we are actually now in the process of finding funding and starting this nationwide action plan, let's say, of approaching organizations and companies to start training people toward that direction. And I have to say that the last few years there have been programs developing for recruiting people and for hiring people with high CQ. So this is something you see now in hiring methods around the world, that they want to hire and recruit people that already have high CQ levels, so that they are more productive and more well equipped to work in diversified environments. So that was the point of him actually coming here. But and of course that's why the conference brought together many sectors, not just cultural or artistic sectors. We had people coming in from law departments, academics, architectures, politicians. We tried to show how diversified this approach can be.
Great, thank you. Carla Condi from Santa Cecilia Academy, with which you have collaborated, as you mentioned. She has a question. Carla?
Yes, Andri, first of all, thank you so much for your presentation. It was so, also dynamic, and really we could understand, and for a while we lived your experience too. And because in the beginning you spoke about a young woman, a musician, who could apply in a certain way. She was, the possibility to apply these additional funds for external, sources. And so I would like to know if are there in Cyprus a kind of laws, a kind of normatives about female women entrepreneurial, if there are some benefits according to taxes, recruitment, something like this.
Actually, this is an excellent question, because although we started this organization feeling that we wouldn't have to face so many difficulties as young women, because we are all around or under our 30s when we started putting together our organization. We did feel that we had to struggle more, we had to fight more, we found more closed doors in certain cases. And especially in higher level administrative works, where people are being hired to work on cultural policies. There seems to be yet we have a lot of work to do as a country in terms of, I wouldn't say equal representation, but fair representation of people that are active and they are professionally equipped to help with building cultural policies and how to develop culture around the country and abroad, of course.
Yeah. So do you think that Cyprus, in a certain way, could do more about this this benefit or this kind of policy about? Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Definitely. And actually, I have to say that although I did have the chance to be in, let's say, higher positions, for example, I was member of the board of the Cyprus Symphony Orchestra, for example. And I was then, I think, I was appointed as a member and general secretary at the age of 29 by the ministers of Cyprus. At the same time, I have to say that it's not something that happens often. And of course, I had to face a lot of difficulties in terms of getting across what I wanted to say, or what I wanted, or what I was trying to do. So that was a very, very tough lesson at the beginning of, let's say, my more administrative career. I then had the chance to work as a culture representative, cultural manager of the Creative Europe desk of Cyprus for 2 years, where again I felt that although so many things were changing rapidly with establishing the Creative Europe desk in Cyprus, and actually I was working with another woman in the media section, sub-program, and we were putting together media and culture activities and actions. Always, we were not separating culture from media. Also, I mean, to get the point out that culture is a mixture of things that we shouldn't be separating them. Again, we had to face difficulties, not in terms of how professionals were understanding us and accepting us as professional women, but in terms of political acceptance. And I'm not, obviously, I'm not talking about parties. I'm talking about how the country is governed and how a woman is perceived and what her role is in society at the moment.
Yeah, Andri, and you know, in your words, I can understand that it's very important also the turnover, you know, the issues of turnover, because you spoke about, you know, people less than under than 30 years old. And also this is very important, you are right, because sometimes, you know, in a very old country, all the people are running and running to go under the innovation just because they are not young. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, I have to say that there are programs now that are European funded, like the Young Women, I don't know how to translate it, γυναικεία επιχειρηματικότητα is called, female
entrepreneurship
Yes, I think that's the way to. That is, it's co-sponsored by the government and Europe, of course, and we are waiting for them to be announced, because although they do exist, they are not always accessible, or the funding is not always handled in a way that can get the best results out of possible projects. So funding might be coming in, but it's not always used to its full potential, let's say. So we're now waiting for the new announcement starting in 2021. They have promised that they will make an announcement relatively soon, so that the deadline will be around January or February. So we are at the beginning of November and we're still waiting to hear, because obviously we do want to apply for this funding while we're still within the age limit, because if we wait even more, we will not be in the age limit to be eligible to apply.
Yeah.
This is a specific opportunity for supporting female entrepreneurship, and as Andri said, we're waiting to see the next call. Before I turn the floor to Sarah for the next question, I would like to comment on Carla's question. Unfortunately, in Cyprus, there is not much there as far as laws supporting cultural contributions, as far as taxation and like it is in the United States and in other countries. This is not taken very much into consideration for tax purposes. So this is something that could be done anyhow, anyway, for the general support, for encouraging a broader general support for the arts. So I comment there. Sarah, please, from Jerusalem Academy.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much, Andri, for a very interesting presentation. It's really opening different drawers, you know, from your brain. What I wanted to ask, have you ever thought of going, let's say, worldwide, with this organization, making like a world woman organization? Of course, this is a political fist in many countries, we know that, but at the same time, this is the soft power that might, you know, open and make a change in different things. Because of course, there are many countries that still think that the woman's place is in the kitchen. And this is a way of, you know, opening their minds and their eyes, and in a way, you know, the window that something like this can really bring education, culture, and much, much more patience between people in general.
Yes,
thank you,
Sarah. Actually, I completely agree with you. And this is what we felt when we were starting, that we have to put our voice out, but at the same time, we have to preserve the voices of others that come after us or that were before us and they were not heard. So this is the good thing about our team, that we have, let's say, we are spanning between 30-year-old women and 30, 38, and 40. So we are in that very crucial age limit that we can actually, we know very clearly what we want to do, and we have no hesitation of going out there and dealing with all the difficulties and what we have to face. But I have to tell you that we had to start not from absolutely zero, but from underground and come up. From below zero and build to what we have done today after 6 years. Because as I said, we are an NGO. We have absolutely absolutely no personal funding, or we don't get paid. This is completely a volunteer work that we do 24/7 for the last 6 years. And at the same time, we have to teach and perform and make a living out of our art, obviously. And that's why we worked really hard to build a strong portfolio as an NGO, so that we can actually be reliable. Other countries and other organizations can search for us and say, yes, these are 3 reliable women. This is a very reliable NGO that we would love to work with. So now we are looking for, obviously, other collaborations outside Cyprus. We're very open to collaborations. We're very flexible to meeting people and hearing what they can, what they want to, promote or suggest. And we're truly looking forward to start working with other NGOs.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Andri. Any other questions? Please feel free. I can ask another question then. I was wondering whether you 3 founding members of the Arts and Braves have received any training during your core studies or at the different institutions that you mentioned. It was interesting that you all studied in different places, in different countries, and different institutions. So you have a varied experience as far as that. Whether you received any training during your course of studies on cultural entrepreneurship and how to succeed in the music world. I don't want to say business, but music world. That was so the first part of this question is whether you have received any, and what was whether, if you did, what have you found valuable from that, and how valuable and applicable was that training that you might have received?
Well, actually, we all come from a performance background. None of us had previous education on entrepreneurship, on management, on administrative work, nothing. But because we have been in this profession since an extremely young age, 5-6 years, and there's a good thing about living in a small country, that you get to know about everyone quite soon, who is part of the industry, what are the important cultural players, what steps you should follow. So everything happened on a how do you say, learn and go experience? I don't know, but because we started very early to try to organize events, to organize concerts, and of course to respect the artists, because we know the needs of the artists. We are performers ourselves, so we knew what it's needed to be done. We knew what was not being done in Cyprus, or what the difficulties are. Let's say a very simple example, in the venues, for example. Do we have good enough theaters? Do we have theaters that need improvement? What are the difficulties to produce in each different theater something, to have a production, to have a concert, to have an educational program? What are the alternatives in terms of facilities? How can we get out of the theaters and create for the people, so we don't have expenses, to cover in terms of renting equipment? So we had to think of alternative ways, exactly because we were facing all these difficulties. And I think the difficulties gave our brains this push to think of alternatives. So when we actually found of alternatives, then we also felt more comfortable about going through the different funding calls and learning what is needed besides from the artist profile. Because we had that. We had the artistic profile, we had the artistic collaborations, we had professionals that were trusting us from abroad, from all these different places that we had been, and we were working before returning to Cyprus. So we had already established professional and artistic relationships with professionals from so many different countries. So what was missing was the means, and that's why we created the NGO, and then that's why we learned how to write strong applications. So we were not the type of professionals that said, my only work is to practice. We always felt that we are part of a community, we're everyday people that need to learn how to make a living out of taking advantage of these different calls. So we actually developed the skills on our own.
Okay, thank you. Any other question, comment, advice?
Advice is never to give up, obviously.
Yeah.
We live in very difficult times. This is it's not just about Cyprus. Obviously, we feel it a bit more if we are in smaller countries. We always feel that we are more isolated, especially if you live in an island, so you don't have access. Let's say I take the train and I go from London to Paris in an hour and a half. I don't know how long it takes. So we feel sometimes this type of isolation, but at the same time, with the technology, with all this digital access everywhere, in productions, in theaters, in libraries, in calls, in other organizations, in museums, I think that we all have access in everybody else's houses and living rooms, just like now, for example. So I think this is a moment we shouldn't give up. Is the moment we should push more for more actions and activities, especially now with COVID, surrounding us. We just have to hang on and convince the different players that make decisions about important policies. We need to convince them what we need, and we have to convince them how necessary culture is, and that culture is also profitable. It can be profitable for nations, and I think Creative Europe has succeeded in showing how culture can bring profits to nations.
Yeah, this is a point that came up in a number of presentations, that we need to consider this parameter, that the artists need to make a living and need to think about these issues as well, and not just issues that relate to the repertoire and practicing and performing. So thanks for bringing it out again and pointing that out. Yes, Michelangelo, please feel free to ask a question. Thank you, Michelangelo from Santa Cecilia.
Hello, grazie for your presentation. You know, these are, as you said, are very difficult times. What would you suggest to freshly graduate students in order to get inside this type of market? Because, we are talking about leadership, and especially self-leadership, which is a tricky concept. So sometimes many students comes to me and ask, what now should I do? How should I get my money? And how should
Exactly, yes.
So what would you say to freshly graduate students? Grazie.
Well, actually, the first thing that we always tell to our students, and thank you for your question. This is a wonderful question, and thank you for bringing it up. Even when we have simple master classes or workshops about performing, we always finish our courses with saying, make sure you know how the system works, that you learn from day one of your student life, of your performing career. Start putting yourself out there, start communicating with people, with music schools, with organizations. Put yourself out there, go observe how they work, go work for them, go for internships, go volunteer, do every possible thing you can to learn how the system works and where the money comes from. This is essential to performers, and I strongly believe that there should be a mandatory university course from day one. Once they enter their academies, their universities, their schools, their whatever program conservatories, whatever program they enter, there should be a mandatory course about how to learn the cultural system, how to apply to different calls, what are the funding sources out there, who I need to contact with, if I need to contact my embassy, if there's a specific department that promotes, local department, national department, across-border departments that can support you and advise you on how to acquire those skills needed to get the necessary funding for your work. Also, there's another thing, I think, and that's another factor. Even if there's a freelancer, musician, artist, okay, that needs to make a living, they need to know how to value their work. How much does it cost? How much do I charge if I want to teach, if I want to perform, if I want to give a seminar, a lecture? I think we have to have a more a general approach, a global approach of how even how union works and how they can support artists. Because I was asking around, for example, here in Cyprus, about actors and how they are, they have their own unions, and how do they charge? Let's say they produce the same work, for example, for a month and a half. They have 40 productions of the same work. What is their fee? Is there a minimum fee? Is there a maximum fee? How is all organized? We have nothing for musicians in Cyprus. Actors, they do have some standards that are legally recognized. Musicians have nothing, for example. So this is something we have to stress out, and I think this is something we need to work all countries together to put down fees from recognized programs, to have differentiated categories of fees according to the portfolio of the performer, for example, or how to help a performer build a portfolio, how to give options, which is what we do as an NGO here in Cyprus. We bring them together and we teach them the process. We actually show them step by step. This is what we do. This is what we write. These are the application forms. This is what we charge, and this is what we demand that artists should be paid, for example.
Yes, you are completely right. And I want to say also that this system you are referring to is the base system of several European cities. Let's think to Salzburg, for instance. Most of its incoming is made of tourism, but tourism is deeply connected with cultural activities. So cultural activities are also a very important engine for getting money for the city. So there's no clear distinction between tourism, incomes, and cultural activity. So this is very important. Grazie. Grazie for your last observation.
This is extremely important, actually, Michelangelo. Thank you for bringing it in, because in Cyprus, we have been trying to build cultural tourism for quite some years now. And I think the results should have been better, much better, and much earlier. We are still struggling. And unfortunately, now with COVID, this is the easiest excuse for everyone to put culture again on the side and wait, you know, and hope for better policies. But cultural tourism, you're absolutely right, is a key for us, especially for an island that the entire economy of the island is based on tourism.
Thank you, Andri, for the very clear, and it's obvious that you are very passionate about it, and you have lots of experiences throughout the years through trying to work these issues in the local community and system. Thank you very much. Raffaele Longo would like to ask a question, please.
Thank you so much, Andy, for your very inspiring presentation. Really great talk. Thanks. So it's a question that may turn in reflection and vice versa. I would ask you the role of the Mediterranean identity in your profession, in your operational activity, and which is also how you build the intercultural approach in a world that seems to fight against differences instead of harmonizing them. Thank you.
I'm sorry, because the connection was not so good. You talked about how we fight the system instead of harmonizing with the system. Is that right?
Not actually, no, which is the role of the Mediterranean identity in your approach, your professional approach, if it exists? Does it exist? A Mediterranean identity, a South identity, and which is the role of the intercultural prospect in a world that seems to fight against differences instead of harmonizing them?
Rafael, maybe I can ask you to write your question just to make sure that I did hear it correctly. You talk because you said, I think that I give attention to intercultural collaborations in a system that fights culture. Did I get it right?
No, Andri, I think Rafael,
yes.
If I may jump in, was talking about, it seems that now in the world there is tension in regards to these differences, and how do you see the role of the Mediterranean identity play within this situation? If I was right, I don't know, Rafael.
Yeah, I find it.
Yeah, yes.
I find it even more important, even more crucial, actually, because at this point, what has been trying, I think, what I'm observing and how I feel it is that there are so many nationalistic tendencies that they are trying to put people away from collaborating. They're actually trying to lock people inside their homes instead of bringing them out and start new collaborations. And I think this is a crucial moment where we have to do everything we can to avoid stereotyping, to avoid this sort of labeling. For example, we know how difficult the situation is in Italy and in Greece, for example, with COVID. Yes, at the moment. What are we supposed to do? To start collaborating, let's say, or start bringing people from Italy and Greece? I think we have to reinforce collaborations between countries that face the same problems instead of locking them inside their homes. I don't know, Raffaele, if I'm making sense of if this was your question.
Yes, indeed. No, but because you are from Cyprus, right? I'm from the south of Italy. For me, the Mediterranean plays a real role. I would like to know if, from your prospect, your view, your experience, professional experience and expertise, what does it mean to be a Mediterranean woman? instead of the EU women of
I see.
women.
I see.
So
I see. That's a good question, a good point actually, because yes, there are some stereotypes there. For example, whether a Mediterranean organization, let's say, it's reliable or not. Yes? For collaboration. That's a point for us. We don't care. We don't have this kind of issues. Because the way we work, it's very, we come down to the people working together and not to the actual organizations or not to the actual culture. Culture makes no difference to us because it always comes down to people. This is a very strong idea for us. So, for example, you say, yes, we are in a Mediterranean island, but at the same time, we are actually part of Middle East. We are part of Middle East much more than we are part of Mediterranean. So I think for us, it's actually an advantage to try to put together this type of cultures together, Mediterranean and Middle East, because they are clashing in so many different levels, and they are diversified in so many different levels that if you bring them together, you can actually work toward innovation. So we're actually hoping, let's say, to work with someone from Israel and Italy at the same time, to work with someone from Qatar and Spain at the same time. That would be a treasure for us.
Thank you.
Great,
and
thank you.
And European culture, of course, yes, as you mentioned. Any other questions? We're coming closer to our allocated time. Maybe a last comment from somebody or reflection or... Okay, then I think we can all thank, I would like to thank you again, Andri, for a very valuable and passionate and energetic and heartfelt presentation. It was clear that you strongly believe in everything you said, and you have been working on these issues for many years, and I'm sure everybody found it valuable. So thank you all for being here today, and I remind you that we have another presentation later on at 3 o'clock Central Time, 4 o'clock Cyprus and Turkish time and Israel time. So we look forward in seeing you later today, as well as tomorrow and Friday. The whole program is on the website of AEC. Thank you very AEC and Sarah and Yarin for all the support. And see you all later today. Have a nice lunch break. Thank you. Bye-bye.